guys, these are our tools. We have to you hurt your hands, you hurt your tools, you hurt your weapons. We have to train with them. We have to hit heavy bags, we have to punch elbows, we have to spar. And in a fight, you got these tiny, tiny little mittens, 8-ounce gloves do not offer that much protection.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for Boxing Scene's Top Stories, only on ProBox TV, your boxing channel. I am George D. Metellus. Quick reminder to download the ProBox TV app where apps are available, because the beauty of getting the app is the insights of our world champions. We have Chris Algieri and Paulie Malignaggi joining us here on Top Stories. Well, Shakur Stevenson is headed to a February 22nd showdown with #1 lightweight contender William Zepeda in Saudi Arabia, as long as Zepeda beats Tevin Farmer and exits the match uninjured. Now, an official connected with the deal told Boxing Scene on Thursday that a verbal agreement is in place, but Stevenson took to X, formerly known as Twitter, to refute narratives that Eric Gomez and Oscar De La Hoya said that Shakur did not want to jump at making the fight this year, still dealing with that hand injury. All right, Paulie, let me ask you this. What's your thoughts on the fight and this kind of verbal jockeying between Shakur Stevenson and the brass at Golden Boy?
I don't know. I mean, he's always up to he's always up to fight, you know, all the big ones. I mean, but he's always up for fighting the best possible challengers. I'm a little bit surprised if it happens in February, because coming off a hand injury, you don't know what kind of condition your hand is going to be in. You'd be fighting a rugged, come forward guy like Zepeda, who's going to make you throw a lot of punches, a lot more punches than you might want to or might anticipate throwing, maybe more punches than you ever had to throw in any fight in your career. So I don't know if having a hand injury, coming off of recovery of a hand injury, if that would be smart to jump right back into this kind of opponent. I'm not necessarily saying not to fight the best kind of opponent, but the kind of opponent that would force you to use your hand and sort of test out the wear and tear in a fight like this when you just come back. I mean, those are my thoughts. I mean, but there's never been a question that Shakur Stevenson wants to fight the best fighters in the business. I think he's been the one who's been constantly avoided. And, you love the fact that Zepeda also doesn't mind getting in there against him as well, because Zepeda could match up very, very dangerously against most, or if not all, the lightweights. But this is his most difficult style matchup as well, is to face a guy like Shakur Stevenson. So it is an interesting fight, but I'm really surprised if they make it in February.
Yeah, Chris, what do you make of the verbal jockeying back and forth and then the fight itself between Stevenson and Zepeda, assuming that Zepeda gets past Tevin Farmer?
Listen, verbal jockeying is something that we see a lot from fighters and promoters today, and managers and whatnot. It keeps things in the news. We're talking about it right here. I am going to follow you, Paulie, and say I don't think this fight's going to happen right away. Coming off a hand injury / surgery, to go right into a tough fight with a guy like Zepeda, who's going to be coming forward. There's going to be contact. Shakur, not known as a puncher, but he's going to have to really crack Zepeda to get some respect, to control that distance the way that he does, because he's a come forward guy. He's a lot trickier than he looks, but also he's a very aggressive guy. And there's going to be a lot of leather thrown, a lot of contact made. And even if Shakur is to control him at a distance, he's going to have to put some hands on him. And if that hand is at all in question, this is not the fight to take right away. Paul, you've had hand injuries. I've had hand injuries. There's no timeline you can give that's accurate for recovering from a hand injury, because, guys, these are our tools. We have to you hurt your hands, you hurt your tools, you hurt your weapons. We have to train with them. We have to hit heavy bags. We have to punch elbows. We have to spar. And in a fight, you got these tiny, tiny little mittens, 8-ounce gloves do not offer that much protection. So to go right in, you never know how that recovery is going to be. You don't know if you're going to be 100% in camp. You're almost never 100% going into a fight. My hands were never 100% going into fight night after I finished training camp, especially coming off injuries. So there's going to be a lot of questions for Team Shakur going into this fight based on how that hand recuperates from surgery. And jumping into a fight with the likes of Zepeda, I don't know if that's the smartest move. Listen, if Shakur does it, because I echo the sentiment of the champ that Shakur wants to fight everybody. He wants all the smoke from all these guys, because he has a style that's going to be very, very difficult to beat for every single one of these guys at 135. I would tip my hat to him if he jumps right into this fight. It would be pretty cool, but I don't know if that's the greatest idea, and I don't know if the people around Shakur are going to think that's a smart idea either.
Chris, you mentioned the timeline and coming back from an injury. How much does the the possible millions of dollars with Riyadh season and Turkey Al Sheikh kind of overtake or become more of a priority, or maybe even just kind of cancel out the idea that the hand injury there because there's a possibility to make so much money? How much does that come into play?
Well, it's possible, but we talk about it all the time about losing your taking a loss in a difficult fight, putting yourself with your back against the wall, not really the smartest move. Yeah, money's money, but I mean Shakur's earning potential so high, and the forcing him to risk it now is not necessary. When you have the talent that Shakur Stevenson has, and you have the brain trust around him maneuvering his career, they don't have to do anything. They can move the way they want to move. Yes, they want these big fights. Yes, they're ready for him right now. Guys don't really want to fight him. Guys are avoiding him. Absolutely. But he still has time. He's one of the younger guys in that grouping of lightweights. I don't think there's really a rush. Riyadh's still going to be here later in the year. They're still going to be here probably for another couple of years. So there's going to be opportunity for Shakur to make money down the line. He's not a smash and grab athlete. So I don't think there's a rush for him. But again, you never know. This is boxing, man. Anything can happen.
Yeah, Shakur Stevenson, 27 years of age. So he's in his prime. There are a lot of fights and boxing left. Paulie, what do you make of the thought that I put out there that maybe the millions of dollars there with Turkey Al Sheikh and Riyadh season could be more than enough to have him come back and fight Zepeda, even if the hand isn't 100%?
Yeah, if you offer enough money, you make it happen. But I think that Turkey Al Sheikh, a guy like that, is more so after the business working relationship with a fighter of the status of Shakur Stevenson. I notice Turkey has certain fighters that he likes to build personal business relationships with, and just personal relationships with in general. So Shakur is not an opponent in this situation. So if Shakur tells Turkey, I need more time, he's going to get more time, and he's not going to throw the money out at him to try to make the fight sooner. I think the fight happens next year. I think there's more and more momentum behind it. I'd be very surprised if it's in February, though.
Yeah, I was going to ask, when do you think? Maybe November? Is it later half of the year, or is it still kind of in that first half of the year there? Because I think February is too soon, but anything, what do you project as a time? Obviously, we can't see the future, but what do you project as the more realistic date for this fight to take place?
Yeah, I think later in the year, maybe a year from now or so. I think that fight happens because you're probably going to have Shakur Stevenson come back in with a fight to test out the hand, which is more likely, and that could also be a business development situation where he fights that fight in the Middle East as well. We'll see, but yeah, if I had to make my personal prediction, I don't think this fight happens for about 10 to 12 months.
Chris, what do you make of, before we wrap up, what do you make of the timeline there as realistic for when these two will get in the ring?
I mean, there's a lot of factors involved. One, Zepeda's got a fight coming up. So depending on how that fight goes, how much trouble he has with another slick southpaw in Tevin Farmer, and if he comes out unscathed, of course. And as the champ said, more than likely Shakur is going to come back with a different kind of opponent to test out the hand, which means that Zepeda is probably going to have another fight in between as well. So there's a lot of moving parts before I think this fight happens. So a year is probably realistic. Maybe a summer card, because Riyadh is doing summer fights, which is usually a dead zone during boxing, but Riyadh has kind of turned boxing up on its head. The schedule has completely changed for the better. We're seeing more fights throughout the year. There's no more seasons really. Even though it's not a season sport, we do kind of fall into certain seasons based around certain holidays, mainly May and September. But yeah, to be safe, I would say probably a year and be realistic, because there are a lot of moving parts, and we cannot put the cart before the horse when it comes to boxing.
Yeah, I think we would all wait a year to see Zepeda in the ring with Shakur Stevenson. It will be a fantastic fight. And any further developments on a possible Stevenson-Zepeda fight, we will keep you up to date here on Top Stories. Remember to scan the QR code, like, subscribe, and leave your comments on our YouTube channel. Your comments are always appreciated and entertaining as well. Don't forget, download the ProBox TV app, where apps are available. And coming up in less than 24 hours, we will have the Contender Series, November 9th from Kissimmee, Florida. Nicholas Flaus and Christian Gomez, the main event here on ProBox TV. You can watch it live on YouTube and on the app as well. I'm George DeMatteis. This is Boxing Scene's Top Stories.
ProBox TV Contender Series. It's Puerto Rico versus Mexico as Nicholas Nico Flaus returns to the ProBox ring to take on Christian Ninote Gomez. Darrell Blast Val Saint looks to keep his undefeated record against Angel Relampago Ruiz. And don't miss former world champion Jojo Diaz as he returns to the ring in search of glory.
For more ProBox TV, scan the QR code on the screen or go to the App Store and Google Play. ProBox TV, your boxing channel.